Welcome to PoliticKING. I'm Larry King. Are drones becoming the preferred method of the United States for waging war, gathering intelligence, or in some cases, assassination? And who exactly is giving final approval for each? Andrew Cockburn has written about the heavily guarded world of drone operations and gives a fascinating look at whose interests are best served by this technology, including the financial interests of corporations, in a recently released book, CHAINE, The Rise of High-Tech Assassins. He's the Washington editor of HARPER'S magazine, an opinion contributor for the Los Angeles Times. He writes frequently about defense and national affairs. Andrew, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Larry, great to be with you.
You described the book as a narrative on the history of drone warfare. When did this come about? Take me through the narrative. When did drones begin?
Well, drones began a long time ago. Actually, we had a stab at drones back in World War I, believe it or not. They didn't work very well. And they've been happening, working on them ever since. But really, the age of drones really began in I would say, the late 1990s, when we were flying them over the Balkan Wars, over Kosovo, when we had that war with Serbia, back in 1999. And then the really crucial moment happened in late 2000 when CIA sent a drone over Afghanistan, and they, on a particular area where people thought that Osama bin Laden might hang out, because we were looking for him even then, they saw little white dots surrounded by black dots, and they decided this must be Osama himself. And if they'd only had a missile on board, they could have, taken care of him and saved us from 9/11 and all the rest. So they went home and they armed the Predator drone, as it was called, and I would say that was what kicked off the age of drone warfare.
So before that, drones were like spying?
Yeah, not very good at it either, but yeah, they were conceived just as a way of, sending an unmanned reconnaissance plane over enemy territory to see what was going on. And I'd say it was late 2000, early 2001 that they really worked on and succeeded in making it a killer by putting a missile on.
Andrew, by definition, what is a drone and how is it named?
It was named, well, a drone is basically, an unmanned vehicle. It doesn't have to be a plane. It can be a ship, can be a truck. That's controlled from somewhere else. It's it's like kind of a mindless beast, if you like.
It's a great name.
In fact, it was what?
It's a great name.
It was dreamt up by a couple of Navy scientists back in the 1930s who went through. They looked at books about insects and birds, and they came up with the name drone. That's how we got drones.
What do we mean by kill chain?
Well, the kill chain it's kind of a military term, and what it means is, from the moment you decide that you're going to hit someone or something, all the things you go through, all the things that have to happen until the action is actually carried out. So, for example, one example, in the 2003, when we were invading Iraq in 2003, people complained to me afterwards that the kill chain was 40 minutes when they were in the various attempts we were making to kill Saddam Hussein. We were looking for him even then. We wanted to assassinate him, and he was hiding out. And so they, would get word that he might be in a particular restaurant or wherever, and it was taking around 40 minutes from the moment they got that word to letting off the bomb or the missile aimed at the restaurant. In fact, they never got him, as you know. They killed a lot of other people, but it took that amount of time to go through all the procedures and get the weapon, the plane on station, and get the weapon armed and get the location right. With drones, the thrill is meant to be that you can do it in seconds. You're hovering around, you're flying around, you see the guy you want to kill, and you bang off the missile, and that's it.
You have a chapter in your book called "It's Not Assassination If We Do It." What do you mean?
Well, as you may remember, after the revelations about all the CIA assassination schemes that came out in the 1970s, at the time of Watergate, the President of the United States, at the time, President Ford, he issued a ban. He made an executive order, said, the United States will not carry out assassinations. And that ban was, reposted by President Carter and President Reagan. So officially, we don't do assassinations. It's just we call them something else. We call them high-value targeting. So other people do it, we don't.
Now, Obama, I guess we could put the word drone in the first chapter of his eventual obituary. Has he been the master user of drones?
He has, really, yeah. I mean, it started under Bush, of course, but Bush was actually kind of sparing in his use of drones. In those days, for most of his terms, the CIA wasn't allowed to kill someone to use a drone on an assassination or whatever you want to call it, unless you had a very clear positive identification of who it was you were aiming at and that you got the right person there. In his last 6 months, that was kind of relaxed, and he told the CIA they could go ahead and attack, hit targets even if they didn't know quite who they were. They just looked like people that they should kill. And then Obama really amped that up. So he's been the drone president, and it certainly belongs in paragraph 1 of his obituary, I'd say.
Would you call it chicken or good tactics?
Well, I don't know about being chicken or you could say, yeah, well, it's obviously safe for the people doing it. I mean, you sit back in the White House and you give the order, and the person in Nevada presses the button, and half a world away, someone gets blown up. So it's obviously safe. What I argue in Kill Chain in the book is that I think it doesn't do you much good in the end, because it turns out, and they've actually been intelligence studies that have proved this, that when you kill, if you make your strategy killing enemy leaders, you inevitably get someone who's worse. Life gets worse for you. And they did a study in Iraq of 200 enemy leaders they'd killed, and they looked to see what happened then. And it turned out that attacks on Americans went up by 40%. So obviously it was kind of counterproductive. The same thing was apparent in Afghanistan, exactly the same thing, and it continues to be shown to be that way today. Could
another country have a drone and get our president?
Well, yeah. I mean, someone with a toy drone flew a drone into a tree at the White House not too long ago. Drones, you can get drones on Amazon, as everyone knows. So yeah, I mean, the US is the only country, so far as I know, that at the moment has this system of worldwide command and control, so that we can, people sitting in Nevada, as I said, could control a drone in Afghanistan or Pakistan or Yemen or Iraq or Syria. But other countries are going to get that.
Obviously. And what are our do we have defenses set up against drones?
Well, we think about it. There's a big flourishing industry. I mean, it's all very secret, anti-drone operations and how you do them. I mean, you try and jam you certainly can jam the signal that's controlling the drone. In fact, the Iranians did that to us a couple of years ago. I mean, there are various, you can try and shoot them down, which is perfectly feasible, but, there's always that threat.
When we accidentally killed the 2 Western hostages, the American Warren Weinstein, inadvertently killed. Mm-hmm. How do we explain that by just casualties of war?
Well, I think we should explain that by saying we first of all have pretty lousy intelligence. I mean, we just had no idea where these 2 poor guys were. And I'm not even clear, it's not even clear that we've been looking for them very hard, which is kind of shocking. It's also pretty scandalous that we couldn't tell that they were that there were 2 people we didn't know about in that building, because they say, oh, well, they had them hidden. Maybe they had them hidden underground. So the thermal imaging that we use to look for people who are, inside buildings, from the warmth from their bodies, couldn't spot them. But I'm not sure about that, because, after all, they were killed. so the missile was able to get them, so they can't have been that far underground if they were. I think it just shows, again, pretty poor intelligence. I mean, they're making it sound like, oh, well, it was kind of impossible to tell they were there. But, if we don't know, comes back to the thing, we don't know who we're shooting at. Suppose that, it's obviously the worst that they were two Westerners and one was an American. But could easily have been women, could easily have been
children.
If you shoot at people and you don't know, it's kind of bad.
Are drones used only against people, or are they also used against targets, buildings?
Well, we don't normally. They're normally just used against people. I mean, the Hellfire missile is a pretty, was originally developed for use against tanks. So it's a pretty destructive instrument. So yeah, but it's kind of, because it's kind of expensive. I think we reserve that for, for old-fashioned bombs and other kinds of missiles.
Do you know what it costs to send a drone to kill someone?
Well, more than you'd think. It's billed as the very cheap option, but to keep a drone patrol in the air takes around 170 people, plus many.
Wow.
I don't know, to break it down. I mean, what each mission costs. I think it's something around about $20,000 an hour, I think. I'm not totally sure of the exact figure.
Both President Obama and Senator McCain, who agree on very little, are now supporting shifting the control of drones from the CIA to the Pentagon. What do you think?
I'd say good luck with that, because the CIA, it's like a huge part of the CIA brief these days is to have, is to control the drones. It's kind of, it's not all they do. It's kind of their headline. So I think they're not going to give that up without a big fight. And the Pentagon, by the Pentagon, we really mean, in this terms of assassinating people, we mean the Joint Special Operations Command of Special Operations Forces, and they have a pretty, not a great record either in terms of blowing away, hitting the wrong targets and blowing away innocents. So I'm not sure what good it would do anyone.
Are drones going to be more in use?
Yeah, I mean, especially, now we're developing, up till now, drones have been useful for really against, very poor sort of tribal societies like in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Yemen, where the enemy may be brave and ruthless, but he doesn't have much of an air defense system. You can't use them. We can't send drones over Russia, for example, because they get shot down immediately by, they have good air defenses. So what they're working on now, what we're spending billions and billions of dollars on, is developing drones that can go into defended, defended environments, defended areas, and that's going to cost us a pretty penny. I mean, we're already up to the $200 million drone with a system called Global Hawk, and we're heading for, I think the Navy is developing one which will set us back $500 million a copy easy.
Andrew, thank you so much. Fascinating and anxious to read the book.
Larry, thank you.
Andrew Cockburn. The book is entitled Kill Chain: The Rise of High-Tech Assassins, and it's out right now.